I call on Sinn Féin leader, Deputy MayLou McDonald, please.
Gurmagad Ceann Comhairle. Taoiseach, you had two options last night: to come forward with a meaningful plan to stop investment cuckoo funds snapping up family homes and pushing ordinary buyers out of the market, or you could tinker around the edges with measures that will have no real impact on them and not fix the problem faced by those desperately seeking an affordable roof over their heads. Well, Taoiseach, you made your choice, and again we see that wealthy investment funds and big developers always come out on top with Fianna Fáil. Now, people had pretty low expectations of what your government would do last night, given that you have a history of supporting these funds for years. But you have defied even those low expectations. The truth is, Taoiseach, that you've done the very bare minimum. The proposal to pitch stamp duty at 10% is too low. These very wealthy investment funds will easily absorb that additional cost across their long-term investments. And of course, stamp duty is the only tax measure that you've touched. As you know, some of these funds are the biggest residential landlords in the state, and they do not pay a cent on their rental income. One fund, as I told you yesterday, Iris, paid zero in tax on €75 million that they generated in rents last year. And yet you still will allow these funds to get away with this while they charge our people extortionate, eye-watering rents. So I suppose it's very little wonder then that the share price for Iris rose by 2.6% overnight following your government's announcement. Taoiseach, you've also excluded homes that are not houses. Apartments have been completely left out, and that's half of all homes built in Dublin last year, and it's 6 out of 7 homes in the city area. So it's open season on those. You've essentially waved the white flag of surrender and abandon people in the cities and suburbs to the extortionate rents of these investor funds, and not just here in Dublin, but in other places such as your own city of Cork. And even where you've introduced so-called controls, they've no retrospective effect. So they won't make a blind bit of difference to the 80,000 planning permissions already underway. Another 80,000 houses that home buyers should be in with a pitch for, but that will lose out to these funds. So the cuckoo funds breathed a sigh of relief last night. And what you have proposed is a recipe for failure. And you know, Taoiseach, that these measures won't work because they are designed not to work. So the acid test of your proposal is this. Firstly, will it reduce the rip-off rents that people pay? The answer to that is no. Will it reduce house prices? The answer is no. Will it stop these investment cuckoo funds buying up family homes? And the answer to that is no. People expected their government to step in and to stop these funds in their tracks, but instead what they got was a cop-out. Now, you may try to play people for fools, Taoiseach, people struggling to buy a home, but they won't be taken in by this. Last night you had the opportunity to do the right thing, and you wasted that opportunity. So I'm asking you to do the right thing today. Do things that will work. End all of the tax advantages for these funds. Include apartments in these measures, and ensure that measures can be applied retrospectively to stop these cuckoos snapping up those 80,000 homes that should go and must go to ordinary home buyers.
Taoiseach, please.
I think the Deputy's response is now the typical Sinn Féin response. Oppose everything, prevaricate, delay, endeavour to exploit the housing crisis for its own political ends and electoral gain, as opposed to coming up with real solutions that matter out there. Our fundamental concern is with young purchasers and people, to enable them to be in a position to buy houses at affordable rates. And last night's measures will be effective in that regard. Both the stamp duty going to 10% is much more broader and effective than the UK situation, which Sinn Féin has cited, which of course applies to houses that are valued over £500,000 sterling. And that illustrates the lack of detail, the attempt to obfuscate, which is now part and parcel of the Sinn Féin presentation on housing. And it's remarkable, for the last number of months, the Sinn Féin leader has come in here and attacked investment funds and week after week attacked developers and so on, and this is all developer-led. And what happened last evening? Their housing spokesman on prime time, appealing to all and sundry, says, we want more developers. I welcome developers, he said. And he acknowledged there was a role for investment funds. He said there was a role for investment funds. So it's Sinn Féin having it each way and every way. Which is it, Deputy McDonald? What is the true nature of Sinn Féin housing policy? There are gaps everywhere in the Sinn Féin housing policy. And you're not strong on the detail on this. You keep coming out with big figures for this and that, but they're not really grounded in reality in terms of providing housing for people on the ground. You take the scheme this morning that the Minister was launching and initiating in Clondalkin, over 1,200 houses, that the Sinn Féin party held up for a long, long time, on the basis that you wanted 100% public housing on public lands. You're very weak on the role of the private sector in getting houses built. You're very weak on the supply question, because your proposals would damage supply in housing and reduce the number of units available to people. The reality is we're not building enough houses in this country. We're not building enough apartments in this country. And just announcing a figure as Sinn Féin does and says, oh, we'll do 40,000 this year, just like that. And you know that's not grounded in reality, but that doesn't matter, because you're not about solving the crisis. You're about exploiting the crisis. That is your agenda. That's your agenda at council level. It's your agenda at national level. It's your agenda in public discourse. You oppose everything. You've opposed the Help to Buy scheme, which has helped 22,000 ordinary people to buy houses. You've opposed the Land Development Agency bill for some narrow ideological basis, where that will give us the engine and give us leverage to get houses built in this country. You've opposed the Shared Equity scheme. You've opposed 16 out of 21 development motions on Dublin City Council. And the list goes on. Where's the constructive engagement? Where's the real policies from Sinn Féin on housing? I do not see them. Because what you are proposing in respect of an alternative proposal to the one that the government came up with last night with terms of Minister Donoghue and Ministers O'Brien, you would reduce supply. And there are issues in terms of apartments. We acknowledge that. And there's issues around financing developments and builders. We need private builders building housing estates and building apartments. And this is just one measure. This measure is about enabling people to be able to buy their houses and duplexes in housing estates. And that funds will not be competing with them. It's a good, structured measure that people feel is sensible and will not have the negative consequence of reducing the supply of apartments in cities, which we do need.
Deputy McDonald, please.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. So let me give you some detail and move from the general to the specific to illustrate how flawed your approach is. There's a sale happening as we speak, Taoiseach, and it'll see the largest ever private rental sector portfolio ever put to market go to sale. It's being developed by Marlott. It represents 2,000 homes across 6 locations here in Dublin, as it happens in Harold's Cross, in Howth, in Dundrum, Lime Street, and on the south side docks in Grand Canal. These 2,000 homes will go to private investors. The process is already underway. You introduced nothing to ensure that young first-time buyers or other home buyers can get access to purchasing and owning these houses. You say that you're for home ownership, and yet everything you do either locks people out of access to homes because of affordability, or locks them into an endless cycle of extortionate rack renting from international funds. Here's the positive policies, and let me repeat them again, and I'd like answers to them. End the tax advantages to these funds. Ensure that apartments are included in any and all protections, and make sure, crucially, that the protections can be applied retrospectively. Because if you don't do those things, then you're leaving people in the lurch. And those are the facts.
The time is up. Taoiseach.
Deputy, we do need a rental market. Do you not get that? In addition to other markets, we need a rental market. We need more supply. We need affordable houses. We need more social houses. So last night is just one measure in relation to one area. The government is coming up with a range of initiatives in terms of housing. The most important being substantial allocation of funding for the largest social housing programme over the next 5 years. We want to provide 50,000 social houses. The government has provided 690 million this year in 2021 budget for what? For affordability, both in the cost rental scheme, which is the first national cost rental scheme at 25% below market price. Those are the kind of positive measures that we are introducing that you are voting against. Why? Why are you voting against good measures that will provide affordable housing to ordinary people? I mean, the affordable housing bill will do just that. It will introduce the first scheme of direct state-built affordable houses, 310 million allocated for that specific thing in the Service Sites Fund for about 6,200 homes. So there's a range of initiatives there that the government has brought forward that you have opposed every single one of them.
Now, the Leader of the Labour Party, Deputy